Grandma, I'm hungry. What's for lunch?
It was just before noon when my daughter, Emily, returned home with her son, Noah, for the birth of her second child. Noah, waving his hands excitedly, looked so adorable, and I answered with a warm smile. We're having Emily's favorite, omelet rice for lunch. Do you like it too, Noah?
Yeah, I love omelet rice.
Noah spun around, with his arms raised in a cheer. Just then, a loud crash came from the direction of the cupboard. Emily. When I rushed towards the sound, I found Emily leaning tiredly against a table, seemingly exhausted. Are you okay? As I stepped closer to support Emily, I saw something incredible happen in front of me. A small shadow moved quickly towards Emily and kicked her in the stomach with great force. What?
Cough, cough.
Emily doubled over in pain, and the small shadow stood defiantly in front of her. Noah. Shockingly, the small shadow that had kicked Emily was Noah. I couldn't believe my eyes for a moment, and when I got back to myself, I told Noah. Hey, Noah, what are you doing to your mom? Emily, are you okay? I immediately went to Emily's side and whispered to her.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
For some reason, Emily kept apologizing desperately. Seeing the usually sweet and honest Noah kick his mother in the stomach was a massive shock to me. My husband, Jack, approached with a fierce look, having witnessed the whole scene.
Noah, I'm not mad, but explain why you did that.
Noah looked confused and said, What? It's discipline. Discipline. What does that mean? I am Kate Jones, supporting my husband, Jack, for 35 years, and this year, I finally reached my 60th birthday. We have one child, our 31-year-old daughter, Emily. I've dedicated my life to homemaking, focusing on household chores, and raising our child. Even though Jack worked, he always made time for Emily on weekends and before bedtime. Emily was the daughter we always wished for, and we showered her with all the love we could from the moment she was in the womb. Especially Jack, who had always wanted a daughter since we got married, lavished her with love. He gave her everything she wanted, from clothes and toys to snacks. And I later found out he had secretly taken her to arcades and shopping malls. Emily grew up honest and straightforward, without a rebellious phase, blooming like a sunflower with a bright and cheerful smile. She married at 28 and lived with her husband, Sam, helping to manage the family-owned restaurant in Sam's hometown. I had only met Sam's parents during the engagement and wedding, so our interactions were minimal. Sam struck me as serious but stubborn, yet the easygoing Emily seemed to soften his edges. We considered Emily our little girl, so we hoped to welcome Sam into our family rather than send her away. However, Emily spent days convincing us, pleading daily about Sam, until we finally agreed to let her marry and move out. After the wedding, Emily called us daily for a while.
Dad, today I made a delicious beef and potato stew.
I knew it, Emily. Emily's beef and potato stew is fantastic. The texture is just irresistible. Sam, he's a lucky man to be able to eat Emily's delicious homemade meals every day.
But those carefree exchanges didn't last long, as the calls became less frequent, from every other day to once a week, then to once a month. At first, Emily seemed overjoyed, but as the number of phone calls decreased, she began to waver, saying that the restaurant is busy. Even when Jack tried every trick to keep the conversation going, he ended up getting cut off. When I messaged Emily, it was rare to get an immediate reply, and sometimes I didn't get a response at all, which was worrying. The birth of our grandson, Noah, was also announced via message. However, it wasn't until Noah turned 1 that Jack and I begged her over and over again and got to see our long-awaited grandson. And after that they only visited our house once or twice a year. Even though we asked Emily to come back more often, her reluctance was puzzling, and before we knew it, Noah was old enough to start elementary school. Thus, we hardly heard about Emily and her family's situation, and had no clue about their lives. Jack tried calling several times but lamented that he could never get through. One evening, just as we finished dinner, the phone rang. "Hello."
Hi, Mom. Is now a good time?
"Yes, it's fine." It was Emily's first call in 6 months. Seeing my surprise, Jack glanced over, so I switched to speakerphone so he could hear too.
I'm about to give birth soon and was wondering if I could come home. Would that be a bother?
"What? Emily, when did you get pregnant?" Jack stood up abruptly, shocked by my question.
Really, Emily?
Oh, didn't I mention? The due date is the 23rd.
We hadn't heard it.
Really? Sorry. But yeah, I got pregnant. I've already chosen a hospital for a maternity visit back home and have gone for a few checkups. Sorry, it ended up being after the fact.
Although it should have been happy news, Emily's voice sounded gloomy and hesitant.
So, is it okay? I know Dad and you are busy, and I'm sorry to bother you.
Emily seemed more concerned about imposing on us by coming back than her impending childbirth.
A bother. You're always welcome here.
Before I could respond, Jack eagerly assured her. "That's right. We're always waiting for you and Noah to visit."
Thank you. Then I'll be in your care?
Emily spoke softly and then hung up.
Emily.
The call ended so abruptly that Jack kept calling her name into the phone, but all we got was the dial tone.
Is Emily okay?
Jack gripped the phone tightly, whispering as if talking to Emily. Emily sounded off, didn't she?
Yeah. I've never heard her sound so down.
Our joy at hearing our daughter's voice was overshadowed by concern for her unusually downcast demeanor. The following week, Emily came home with Noah. We went to the station early in the morning, eagerly awaiting their arrival. Emily appeared from the ticket gate, pulling Noah's hand.
Emily. Noah.
Jack rushed towards them and waved his hands enthusiastically.
Mommy, who's that man?
Noah noticed Jack, but he didn't remember because he hadn't seen Jack for over 3 years.
He's my dad and your grandpa.
Emily waved at us with an apologetic look on her face. As they came through the gate, Jack greeted them with a forced smile, hiding his disappointment at not being recognized by Noah.
Emily, Noah, have you been well?
Dad.
Emily seemed to grasp the situation from Jack's expression, tensing up as she whispered something to Noah. After hearing Emily's words, Noah said with a sharp look of mission,
Grandpa and Grandma, I'll be in your care for a while.
Of course, you're our family, so feel free to lean on us all you want.
It was clear Emily had instructed Noah to say this, so Jack answered in a reassuring tone. It saddened me to think that Emily had become so considerate of us, her parents, without us knowing. Noah, like Emily when she was little, seems to have a spoiled personality, begging Emily to praise him. Emily gently stroked Noah's head while she rubbed her stomach and sighed. Anyway, you must be exhausted. It's a long journey.
No, I'm okay.
Yet, Emily's complexion was pale, and she looked even thinner than the last time we saw her. Emily, have you lost weight? Are you eating properly?
Yes.
Emily averted her eyes and began to rub her arms as if to protect herself. With Emily avoiding eye contact and looking downcast, I grew suspicious. Noticing our daughter's odd behavior, Jack suddenly became serious and said,
You've come back home after so long. Now's the time to really lean on us.
Yeah, thank you, Dad.
But Emily's response was hesitant, causing Jack and me to exchange puzzled glances. When we got home and I was about to make some herbal tea to take a break, Emily came into the kitchen and said, I'll help you. Emily, you should rest.
I can help you. I am okay.
Emily forcefully grabbed a kitchen towel and began wiping the dining table, sweat forming on her forehead. You were a very spoiled girl. What happened all of a sudden? She had never once talked back to me, but now she seemed like a different person, turning her back to me.
It's nothing. I've just come to understand the challenges of being a mom.
While meticulously wiping the table, Emily spoke calmly, but she looked so frail I had to force her to lie down in bed.
Mom, I am okay.
Emily was lying down and saying in a weak voice, and I was worried about her. We're taking care of Noah, so sleep for a while.
I am sorry.
Emily used to be so bright, like a sunflower, but now she was trembling and seemed so small and scared. It's not I'm sorry. It's thank you, right?
Yay, thank you, Mom.
I continued to gently and slowly rub Emily's shoulder. She must have been so tired that she fell asleep in less than 5 minutes. Meanwhile, Noah, overflowing with energy, played with toy trains with Jack. I smiled and spoke to the two who were playing. Put it away when you're done playing.
Okay.
Noah responded energetically, raising his hand.
It's very good of you to answer well, Noah.
Noah is such an honest and good boy as Emily. I smiled, left Noah in Jack's care, and decided to go grocery shopping to prepare lunch. Today, I plan to make Emily's favorite omelet rice, trying to shake off the nagging anxiety. When I returned from shopping and it was time for lunch, Emily had just woken up.
Did I sleep a lot?
Yeah, you slept soundly.
What should I do?
For some reason, Her face turned even paler, showing a frightened expression. Is something wrong?
No, I need to start making lunch soon.
Without hearing me stop her, Emily went hauntingly to the cupboard. Her behavior was more suspicious than I had ever seen, filling me with an increasing sense of dread. Just then, Jack and Noah, tired of playing and hungry, came.
Grandma, I'm hungry. What's for lunch?
Noah's flailing hands were endearing, and I answered with a smile. We're having Emily's favorite, omelet rice for lunch. Do you like it too, Noah?
Yeah, I love omelet rice.
Noah spun around with his arms raised in a cheer. At that moment, a loud crash came from the cupboard. Emily. Rushing over, it seemed Emily hadn't fully recovered, as she was slumped over, leaning on the table. Are you okay? As I stepped closer to support Emily, I saw something incredible happen in front of me. A small shadow moved incredibly fast towards Emily and kicked her in the stomach with great force. What?
Cough, cough.
Emily crumpled to the ground, with a small shadow standing defiantly in front of her. Noah. Shockingly, the small shadow that had kicked Emily was Noah. I couldn't believe my eyes for a moment, and when I got back to myself, I told Noah off. Hey, Noah, what are you doing to your mom? Emily, are you okay? I immediately went to Emily's side and whispered to her.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
For some reason, Emily kept apologizing desperately. Seeing the usually sweet and honest Noah kick his mother in the stomach was a massive shock to me. Jack, having witnessed the whole scene, approached with a fierce look.
Noah, I'm not mad, but explain why you did that.
Jack was trying to remain as calm as possible, but it was clear he was struggling to contain his anger, his fists clenched. However, Noah looked bewildered.
What? It's discipline?
Discipline. I didn't understand what he meant, but my first thought was, first, we need to help Emily. Emily. Supporting Emily, whose gaze was unfocused, I looked into her eyes. Emily, what's wrong? You're acting strange. At my words, Emily flinched and then collapsed to the floor. Emily, are you okay? Emily continued to breathe heavily while clutching her stomach. Emily. Gently touching Emily's back, my warmth seemed to reassure her, and her breathing slowly became more stable. Then the warmth of my hand seemed to make Emily's breathing calm little by little. I gently stroked Emily's back and watched Jack and his grandson. Noah was a good and obedient child, and I felt there must be some reason behind his actions.
What's going on, Noah?
With his face turning red and looking nothing like the person who had just been playing with Noah, Jack's angry expression made Noah look like he was about to cry.
But Daddy said.
At Noah's softly spoken words, Jack's eyebrows twitched. In front of Jack, who looked like a demon, Noah finally sobbed and continued his words.
Daddy said, this is how to discipline Mommy.
What do you mean?
When Daddy's not around and Mommy makes a mistake, he told me to discipline her.
Noah managed to say between hiccups.
If I don't, Mommy gets in more trouble.
That's unbelievable.
Then Emily, coughing, managed to squeeze out her words.
It's not Noah's fault. If we don't do this, Noah gets hit by Sam.
With those words, the awful truth I had suspected became clear. You've endured so much. Imagining Emily enduring Sam's treatment alone, without anyone to turn to, brought tears to my eyes.
I've been watched by Sam all this time. I couldn't say anything until now.
Emily also started crying heavily. Emily, as well as Noah, and the baby will not be happy with Sam.
Your mom's right. We can't forgive what he's done to our precious daughter.
Emily's tears didn't stop, and Jack's words seemed to finally allow her to voice her true feelings.
Dad, Mom, I want to cut ties with Sam.
That's brave of you to say.
Actually, I've been carrying a divorce petition that I signed, thinking of divorcing someday.
When Emily revealed she had brought it even now, Jack immediately said,
Let's call Sam over right now.
But will he come?
Sam always prioritized the restaurant and never listened to Emily, so she looked doubtful. Jack called Sam with a firm tone.
Sam, come to our house right now.
I couldn't hear Sam's voice on the phone, but Jack's voice made Sam look reluctant.
Do you understand what will happen if you don't?
Jack's forehead veins stood out, and his face turned red from the unfamiliar effort.
We'll talk more when you get here.
After ending the call, Jack looked frustrated. Are you okay?
Yeah. I just need some water and a little rest.
I passed the water to him, and he drank it all in one gulp, holding his head. After drinking the water, Jack felt exhausted and staggered down on the sofa. Noah sat quietly next to Emily, who still couldn't stand up. I clenched my teeth, bracing for what might happen next. Hours later, Sam arrived, his hair messy and dressed carelessly, with a sulky attitude.
Seriously, I have work, and you call me over suddenly.
Jack, slightly recovered, spoke up at Sam's attitude, which suggested he might attack Emily if we weren't watching.
How could you do this to our precious daughter?
Sam, sensing something, responded noncommittally and glared at Noah. Noah stood protectively in front of Emily, spreading his small body as wide as he could.
I disciplined Mommy in place of Daddy, so don't be mad at her anymore.
As Sam slowly moved towards Emily and Noah, Jack stood in front of them.
If you take one more step, I won't hold back.
Jack's voice, deep and resonant from his core, made Sam shake his head in frustration.
All of you painting me as the villain, disciplining a poor wife, what's wrong with that?
Sam, showing no remorse, glared at Jack with muddy eyes.
That's why I hated spoiled princesses. Do you have any idea how much I've hurt my hands educating this worthless wife?
While revealing his abuse of Emily without a shred of guilt, Sam remained utterly unapologetic. Standing next to Jack, I couldn't contain my anger any longer and said, Emily is pregnant. What if something happened to the baby? Even if she weren't abusing your wife, is despicable.
Despicable, huh? It's Emily who's really despicable here, being so careless with housework and parenting.
Sam started, scratching his head and saying something outrageous.
Lately, I've been letting Noah do the disciplining. Just like his mother, he's completely inept.
He casually mentioned abusing Noah if he didn't discipline properly, then taking it out even more violently on Emily, as if discussing tomorrow's weather.
That's absolutely unforgivable.
Jack screamed, realizing the unimaginable hardships our dear daughter had been silently bearing.
Am I really that bad? I was raised this way, and making a fuss about this seems ridiculous.
Sam revealed, apparently, his parents were complicit in his treatment of Emily.
Give me a break. It's ridiculous that I'm being blamed here.
Sam bit back, showing no signs of remorse and acting as if he was the victim.
You thought I was listening silently.
Finally, Jack's patience snapped. He disappeared into another room and returned with several documents.
I don't care what happens in your family, but you're getting divorced from Emily.
I thrust a sheet of paper at Sam. Sam looked at the document, raising his eyebrows slightly. The document Jack pushed towards him was the divorce petition signed by Emily. Before Sam arrived, Jack had taken custody of the divorce papers from Emily.
Fine, I don't mind divorcing Emily.
Sam quickly signed the divorce papers and handed them back to Jack. Jack secured the signed divorce petition and prepared more documents.
Additionally, considering Emily will need support, I want back all the money I invested in your parents' restaurant.
With that, he handed over another document, causing Sam to gasp and collapse to the ground. The second document was a financial support agreement signed by Jack. The document stated the total amount of money that Jack had helped so far, and that he might have to make a lump sum repayment depending on his wishes. Since Jack is the executive of a large company, he has given considerable support to Sam's parents' restaurant, which amounts to $100,000. Sam finally spoke after a moment of slumping on his back.
I can't give up Noah as the heir, and there's no way I can repay that money.
There's no way we'd let you off that easy.
Do you have no compassion? I'm the man your precious daughter loved.
I supported Jack because Sam was so selfish. After agreeing so readily to divorce Emily, you expect compassion and love.
What? You don't care what happens to me, Emily?
Sam desperately looked to Emily for support, turning his anger towards her. But protected by us, Emily confidently replied,
I don't care what happens to you. As long as I have Noah and the baby, I'll be happy.
So that's how it is.
Realizing there was nothing he could do, Sam seemed to lose all spirit, now that the divorce was finalized. Following the divorce, Sam's parents' restaurant, having lost Jack's financial support, faced severe financial difficulties. To save the failing business, Sam accumulated debt, but the business ultimately failed spectacularly. Rumors of Sam's abuse towards Emily and Noah spread, and he was eventually ousted from his home. Sam, now labeled as an abusive man, moved far from his hometown and worked tirelessly in a remote factory to repay his debts. Then Emily and Noah, no longer with Sam, lived with us. On a bright, clear autumn day, the cheerful cries of a newborn filled the hospital room.
How is it, Emily?
As usual, Jack charged towards Emily, causing me to hastily calm him down. Dear, you'll startle the newborn baby with that enthusiasm.
Oh, my apologies.
As if slamming on the brakes, Jack came to a sudden stop in front of Emily and flashed a smile as soft as melted ice cream.
You look just like Emily, a beautiful girl.
Hee, thank you.
Emily smiled softly, as if the evil had fallen. That smile was indeed the full bloom of sunflowers we knew Emily could bring to life.
Mommy, Mommy.
Noah, who had been fidgety yet patiently waiting, approached Emily with joy.
Noah, you're going to be a big brother starting today. Say hello, will you?
The baby stopped crying and stared intently at Noah's big, round eyes.
I'm your big brother.
As if responding, the baby tightly grasped Noah's cautiously extended hand and seemed to smile. Oh, how adorable! Noah, gripping the baby's hand in return, immediately put on a determined, big brotherly expression.
Have you decided on a name for her?
Jack asked Emily with a doting smile.
Yes. I want her to have a life filled with brightness and joy, so I thought we'd name her Claire.
Emily's words resonated deeply within me. Claire, thank you for being born safely. My spontaneous words made both Jack and Emily nod quietly with moist eyes. Emily and her family were discharged from the hospital safely, and our home became livelier in an instant. Fortunately, Emily has no physical scars left, and the newborn Claire is just as shiny and bright as her name.
So, I hear you're drowning in debt because of some futile fertility treatments.
My ex-husband sneered at me as he approached me with a sarcastic smile. This was in a renowned hot spring town. We reunited in the most unexpected place.
It's pathetic how hard you're trying despite it all being in vain.
My ex-husband looked down on me. After our divorce, he remarried and was blessed with children. He was living a contented family life. He considered himself the winner while belittling me. Whose story are you even talking about? I touched my slightly swollen belly. I wonder who really needs fertility treatments. He was about to learn a shocking truth. No matter how much he ranted or clung to me, it was too little, too late. This marked the beginning of my ex-husband's downfall. The false happiness he had acquired through his misunderstandings was crumbling loudly. Those who find happiness, and those who let it slip away. Our reunion clearly marked the diverging paths our lives would take from here on. My name is Mary. I work at a travel agency counter. I propose various plans to customers who visit the store, arranging trips that ensure their satisfaction. I found great fulfillment in this job. I married Mike after a workplace romance. He joined as the new manager at the branch where I worked, always approaching me with a gentle smile and a calm demeanor. During the busy seasons like summer break, we worked late together. During breaks at work, we would engage in enjoyable conversations and encourage each other through tough times, gradually spending more and more time together. Eventually, we became conscious of each other, started dating, and got married. After our marriage, I transferred to another branch.
The travel agency job involves a lot of overtime and is challenging. You've worked hard without a single complaint. Now that we're married, you can take it easy and be a housewife.
His caring words filled me with a deep sense of happiness, appreciating the kindness my husband showed me. However, I was passionate about my work and had dreams I wanted to achieve. For those dreams, I had lived a frugal life and saved money. So, I decided to continue working even after marriage. John respected my decision, and we both worked hard at different branches. We understood each other's jobs and enjoyed our small happiness by comforting each other over drinks every night. 2 years had passed since we got married. We haven't been able to have a baby yet. I started feeling anxious as we hadn't conceived after 2 years. I lost my parents when I was a student. Being an only child, I often felt lonely. That's why I longed for a large family. Therefore, after getting married, while not necessarily desiring a very large family, I did hope to have at least 2 children.
Don't worry, it'll happen eventually.
My husband was receptive to my feeling. He also agreed on having children. I wonder if I'm infertile. Maybe I should see a doctor. I looked down, feeling disheartened.
Don't be so negative. It'll be all right. But if you're worried, it won't hurt to get checked out.
Saying that, my husband gently stroked my head. He always understood me. I felt so moved that I was nearly brought to tears. After that, I went to the OB/GYN and underwent several tests. The multitude of tests revealed no particular abnormalities in my body.
It's good there's nothing wrong.
My husband said that happily upon seeing the test results.
See, I told you there's no need to rush. The baby will come to us eventually.
I wonder how many times I've been saved by my husband's gentle smile. It always made me feel so much lighter. Next up is a test for men. It's a short procedure. So could you possibly go during a break from work? It's likely that my husband also had no issues. But just to be cautious, I wanted him to get tested. Of course, I believed my husband would gladly accept. I was certain of it.
What? Why do I have to get tested? It's usually a woman's issue when it comes to infertility, and it would be a waste of time for me to do it.
His response was unexpected. It might be unnecessary, but just to be sure, if there is an issue on the man's side, there are treatments available. Could you please do it? His expression turned somewhat cloudy. I understood his reluctance to get tested. If a problem was found, it might hurt his pride as a man. It was a delicate issue. I knew it wouldn't be good to force the issue. It doesn't have to be right away, whenever you have time. However, he remained silent. The day ended without me getting an answer from him. One day, we visited my husband's family home. It was my Mill's birthday, and we brought a bouquet and a gift. I heard that my Phil had an affair when my husband was young and disappeared afterward. Afterward, my Mill, on her own, raised my husband and did a commendable job. I heard she went through a lot of struggles. She turned 65 this year and had retired from her job. She worked tirelessly all these years and never neglected her parenting duties. I had great respect for my Mill as a woman. She could now spend her time happily and at ease. That's what I thought. I was certain the bouquet and gift would bring joy. With that confidence, I opened a door to my Mill's house.
Well, welcome.
My Mill greeted us with a bright smile.
Oh, what beautiful flowers, and this, a set of bath salts. You remembered how much I love baths. I'm so happy.
As expected, my Mill was very pleased. It was supposed to be a pleasant time spent together. However, she then said, I'm happy with the gifts and flowers, but I'm starting to wish to be able to see the face of a grandchild. Her words changed the atmosphere instantly. I was at a loss for words and glanced at my husband. But he remained silent.
Mary, I understand work is busy, but there are things more important than work. You have to face your health properly and focus on child making. There's always fertility treatment available now.
I had already faced my health issues. I had also undergone the tests. There were no problems found.
I just want to hold a cute baby in these arms soon. Mary, I'm counting on you.
My Mill was also the same. Why is infertility always presumed to be a woman's issue? Why doesn't she say anything to my husband? Yes. I couldn't argue. I was afraid that arguing would create a rift between my Mill and me. I wanted my husband to explain it properly, but he remained silent the whole time. It felt as though everyone assumed the reason we couldn't have children was entirely my fault.
I'm hoping you'll have a baby in your belly by my next birthday.
Those words weighed heavily on me. Setting a deadline only made me feel more anxious. I tried to tell myself not to worry, but her words echoed in my mind. I couldn't remember anything about the conversation that followed. As the evening came, we left my Mill's home. On our way back, we walked shoulder to shoulder in silence. Our long shadows were cast by the setting sun. I kept looking at those shadows. My husband's shadow marched straight ahead. What was he thinking? How did he take his mother's words today? I wanted to ask but couldn't bring myself to do it. No, I was afraid to ask about it. I was scared of feeling despair from my husband's words again. We returned home without speaking.
I'm starving. Let's have dinner quickly.
He said that, acting as if nothing had happened. He probably planned to end the day without addressing my feelings. I decided to speak up boldly. Hey, John, about what your mom said today. He turned to me with his usual smile.
What about it?
Was that smile just for show? She said she wanted grandchildren. I looked straight at him.
Yo, but if it's not happening, we just have to wait, right?
No, that's not what I wanted to say. She told me to think about my body over work and to undergo fertility treatments. But I have faced the issue and got tested, and there were no problems found. His expression slowly changed. Why didn't you say anything at the time? It feels like it's all my fault. But it's not me who isn't facing the issue. It's you, John, isn't it? I didn't intend to say it like that. But once I started, the words just wouldn't stop. All my pent-up frustration erupted.
What the hell? Always about the tests. I've told you, infertility is a woman's issue. And what mom said wasn't wrong. It's not my fault.
He got angry, his face turning red. He wasn't the husband I knew. I know it's not your fault, John. It's wrong to blame anyone for infertility. but I just want to move forward. To do that, we need to start with the tests, whether it's for treatment or not. No matter how much we argued, we couldn't accept each other's viewpoints, and it remained a stalemate.
This is too much hassle. I'm hungry. I'm going out to eat.
With those words, my husband left the house. I was left alone in the quiet room. Suddenly, I felt all the strength drain from my body, and I slumped onto the sofa. The image of my husband yelling kept flashing back in my mind. Was it my fault? I didn't mean to upset my gentle husband. This wasn't what I intended. I just wanted him to understand. I wanted us to work together towards our future. The testing was for that purpose. I couldn't stop my tears. In the quiet room, only the sound of my sobbing echoed. The next morning, my husband returned home in silence. You said you were going out to eat. Where did you spend the night? I was worried. He didn't seem to listen to me.
It doesn't matter.
That was all he said before leaving for work. It was our first major fight. These things happen. I hoped he would be in a better mood by evening. Thinking this, I too headed to work. I kept sighing all morning. However, my husband's mood didn't improve for days. He started leaving home earlier and coming back later than before. On weekends, he would go out without a word and return when I was asleep. The time we spent together as a couple had drastically reduced. It felt like he was avoiding me. I no longer knew how to interact with him. Eventually, this silent coexistence became our new normal. I couldn't even remember the times when we cherished being together. What had driven us to this point? Was suggesting the test really so wrong? And finally, my husband stopped coming home. You've been away a lot recently. Where do you stay? He had started to have conversations with his back turned to me.
I'm busy with work and always miss the last train, so I stay at a business hotel near my office.
Likewise, he kept his back to me. I see. Then he headed to the bedroom. At some point, my bed had become the couch. It's just a ridiculous excuse to say that work ran late and you missed the last train. It wasn't our busy season. He was hiding something. My suspicion turned into reality weeks later. My husband comes home every few days, dumping a huge pile of laundry on me. Then he packs his freshly washed underwear and clothes in his bag and hurries out. You could do your own laundry. It's not that much trouble. I muttered as I loaded his laundry into the washing machine. At that moment, something dropped with a clink. I looked at the floor but found nothing. However, I was sure I had heard something. I searched again, more carefully this time. What could have fallen? Stepping back, something sparkled at my feet. Here it is. What is this? I picked up the shining object and held it in my hand. Oh. I was at a loss for words. What sparkled in the palm of my hand was a small earring. My mind went blank for a moment, but I wasn't as shocked as I thought I would be. By the time he stopped coming home, it was clear to anyone. My husband was having an affair. Somewhere in my heart, I harbored those suspicions. But I was afraid to confront the truth and tried to dismiss it. I didn't want to hurt myself. However, I was now confronted with reality. I wouldn't run away anymore. I decided to have an honest conversation with my husband. With evidence of his infidelity in hand, it was time to end our marriage. The next day, I headed to a detective agency. A few days later, my husband's affair was confirmed. The other woman was a new employee at the branch where my husband worked. She joined the company around the time when cracks began to appear in our marriage, a young and attractive staff member. My husband, with his characteristic gentle tone and charming smile, captivated her. He got closer to her by acting as her mentor and eventually started a relationship. It was new to me, but apparently, my husband had made advances toward various female employees before. As a supervisor, he used sweet words to get close to them and deepen their relationships. It was his cunning method. I was just one of the women caught in his trap. The reason he chose me as a marriage partner must have been because I was particularly convenient for him. I felt a surge of resentment. It was time to end this life. I was determined. That night, as usual, my husband came home with a load of laundry. You don't have to come home just to do laundry. Why not have it done at her place? I spoke to his back. He stopped and turned around.
What are you talking about? I told you, it's work.
He looked at me with a cold gaze. Then is this part of your job too? What exactly are you teaching this female employee after work? I presented him with several photos. They showed the two of them leaving the workplace and entering the apartment where she lived alone.
What is this?
He seemed unable to hide his shock. Don't play dumb. I've investigated everything. And this earring, wasn't she looking for it? It was caught in your shirt. He froze, looking at the earring in my hand.
I never thought you could be such a person with terrible habits towards women. Let's end this. Now you can openly date this woman.
I said this and handed him the divorce papers. A silent atmosphere filled the room. My husband stared at the divorce papers with a look of surprise on his face. Suddenly, he burst into laughter.
What's this? Sour grapes. Are you bitter just because you can't have kids? If you've got time to take pictures like this, why not diligently pursue treatment to get pregnant?
What an appalling thing to say. Who's really being bitter here? I struggled to contain my rising anger.
Divorce. I've been wanting that too. The other woman is pregnant. I've been eager to cut ties with you and move on. I only care about my new family now.
What a reckless man, to get the other woman pregnant. I was speechless. That was how our divorce was concluded. A swift and unceremonious end. John took only the bare essentials with him when he left. I decided to move out of the apartment we shared. After canceling the lease, I began packing up. Everything he left behind went straight into trash bags. I had no regrets whatsoever. Just then, the doorbell rang. Who could it be at a time like this? I slowly opened the door. Outside the door stood a man. His hair was unkempt, and he was wearing dirty clothes. He was a stranger I had never seen before. He then greeted me sincerely and began to speak. I was astounded by the man's words. Then, 3 years passed. I continued to live frugally after the divorce, and finally, my savings reached the target amount. I had made my dream come true. Then, I resigned from the travel agency. One day, I was walking through a hot spring town. This is one of the most famous hot spring towns in the USA. The outdoor bath store was popular, and people happily strolled through the town, visiting various hot spring facilities. Recently, new sweet shops and cafes have opened, becoming popular among young people. I love this vibrant hot spring town and have moved nearby. Enjoying a stroll in the pleasant weather, I suddenly heard a familiar voice call my name from behind. Who could it be? I was shocked and lost for words at the sight that met my eyes when I turned around. It was my ex-husband, whom I had parted ways with 3 years ago.
Didn't think we'd run into each other here. On a solo hot spring trip. How miserable.
My ex-husband was wearing work clothes. He was sporting a stubbly beard, and his hair was unkempt. I wondered if he had quit the travel agency. I never imagined we would meet here. My pleasant walk was completely spoiled.
So, I hear you're drowning in debt because of those futile fertility treatments.
John approached me with a sarcastic grin.
All that effort for nothing. How sad.
He scoffed, clearly looking down on me. He probably wanted to show off to me that he had children with his new wife and was living happily. He seemed to think of himself as the winner and looked down on me. Who are you talking about? I gave John a cold stare.
I heard from the landlord of our old apartment. You've gotten yourself into debt, haven't you? After I left, some guy you borrowed money from came to collect money. You went into debt for expensive fertility treatments and ended up with nothing but a huge debt, right?
The man he referred to was the one who visited while I was cleaning the apartment after our divorce. Debt? You're mistaken. Well, sometimes it's better to live in blissful ignorance. I then shared the truth to my ex-husband, whose expression clouded over slightly. It was a shocking truth for him. 3 years ago, after my divorce from my ex-husband, a man indeed visited as I was clearing out the room for moving. The man was not there for debt collection. He was actually my ex-husband's father. It was the father whom I had been told disappeared with an affair partner. He had come looking for my ex-husband. The father seemed to have learned from someone about the apartment where my ex-husband was living his married life. However, by then we had divorced and the apartment lease had been canceled. The name tags and mailbox labels had been removed, so his father didn't know which unit was John's. He had mentioned John's last name to the landlord, saying he wanted to meet because he had lent him money. The landlord, fearing the man was a debt collector, immediately contacted me. Upon receiving the message about the visitor from the landlord, I simply said, "Let him in. I'll meet him." The landlord loved to gossip, and I was afraid of any strange rumors spreading. It turned out the landlord, believing the father to be a debt collector, likely shared this amusing tale with John upon a chance encounter. John took it seriously. The reason my ex-husband's father visited the room was to request a loan. He had been abandoned by his affair partner and was struggling financially. Thus, he managed to find out my ex-husband's whereabouts and came to borrow money. Unaware of the divorce, the father approached me with his utmost sincerity. However, to me, a divorced woman, this was entirely irrelevant. This man was no relative or concern of mine. I directed him to rely on my ex-husband instead, giving him John's contact information. With that, he left. Hearing this, my ex-husband became furious, his face turning bright red with anger.
You gave him my contact. Since then, I've been hassled with support inquiries.
In the hot spring town filled with cheerful laughter, my ex-husband's angry voice stood out.
Why should I have to support him? He left me and my mother. It's too much for him to show up now expecting help.
It's understandable that my ex-husband would be angry. It was entirely his father's selfishness. However, I had no sympathy for that situation.
Then my wife said she couldn't deal with such a troublesome Phil and talked about getting a divorce.
That sounded unfortunate.
But for the sake of our unborn child, I convinced her to give our marriage another chance, and by helping with her family's cleaning business, we managed to settle things.
I looked at the logo on my ex-husband's work clothes. It seemed that his wife's family was in the cleaning business, judging by the company name written there. John had given up his position as a travel agency branch manager to work daily at Hot Spring Inns as a cleaner. His income from the cleaning job was entirely managed by his wife, leaving him with no disposable money. His wife, aware of his wandering eye, likely wanted him under her parents' watchful eyes by making him quit the travel agency job. I was impressed by his young yet capable wife. You have a strong wife, but it's rare for a wife to restrict her husband so much. Is there another reason? John suddenly went quiet, turning pale.
What? Are you hiding something else?
I had nothing to hide. However, there was just one thing that intrigued me. I wonder if the child really is yours. I said that while gently touching my slightly swollen belly. My ex-husband froze as he looked at my belly. It was as if time had stopped just for him. In fact, I was pregnant. As the tests confirmed, there was nothing wrong with me. After the divorce, I led a life far beyond what my ex-husband could have imagined. That life was sheer happiness. As I said this, I attempted to enter the luxury inn in front of me. Then my ex-husband called out, "Wait, please listen to me." But I felt no obligation to hear him out any further. "We didn't ask for your cleaning services, so don't come inside." He looked at me, bewildered.
What do you mean we? Who are you to this inn?
I didn't need to continue the conversation, but I decided to leave him with one final remark. "I own this inn." His face turned pale once again. My parents adored this hot spring town. When I was young, our family often stayed at a small inn in this hot spring town. That inn, filled with our memories, became very old and neglected, overshadowed by the newer, larger inns surrounding it. Eventually, it faced financial difficulties and nearly closed. My dream was to purchase and revive this inn. I saved most of my earnings from the travel agency, and with frugality, I reached my savings goal. I bought the inn with my inheritance and savings, renovated it, and reopened it. Using my experience from the travel agency, I created a welcoming place for everyone, young and old, men and women alike. The reputation of the inn spread rapidly. The inn quickly gained an excellent reputation and now ranks among luxury establishments, with my net worth reaching approximately $130 million. Particularly well received at the inn was the food. Menus were carefully crafted for each guest, with meals provided accordingly. Many guests returned specifically for the dining experience. The dishes reflected the dedication of the chef, who spared no effort in catering to the guests. I empathized with the chef's caring nature, and we were drawn to each other. And so, I had a remarriage by getting married with him. Shortly after our marriage, I became pregnant. I no longer had any conversation with my ex-husband. I turned my back on him.
Please, wait.
He probably only wanted to stop me for money. To me, my ex-husband was then a stranger. I owe him nothing. I have nothing more to say to you. Never appear before me again. I said that dismissively and entered the inn. Nevertheless, he tried to follow me into the inn, but was stopped by the staff and expelled outside. His voice calling my name faded away and eventually disappeared. Our unexpected reunion marked a turning point in our respective lives. Weeks later, I received a letter at the inn addressed to me. I was surprised when I saw the sender's name. It was my ex-husband. I thought everything had ended between us. Curious and slightly anxious, I opened the envelope. The sheet of stationery was filled with dense writing, bearing distinctive quirks, and mistakably written by my ex-husband. The letter contained astonishing information. The content was as follows. During our reunion, John began to wonder if the cause of infertility lay with himself, and he asked his wife if he truly was the father of their child. Although she initially insisted it was his, he had long felt a dissonance due to the child's lack of resemblance to him. Therefore, after repeatedly questioning his wife, she finally confessed. The child he thought was his own was actually from her previous relationship with another man during her student days. After graduating from college and joining a travel agency, the wife quickly caught my ex-husband's eye, and they started having an affair. But for her, it was just a fling. Her real commitment was to a boyfriend from her student days. She got pregnant with this boyfriend's child and considered marriage, but he disappeared upon learning of her pregnancy. Being a recent graduate and unexpectedly finding out about the impending parenthood, she likely felt anxious and overwhelmed by the responsibility at such a young age. Facing the prospect of becoming an unwed mother, she lied that the child was my ex-husband's, marrying him for financial stability. However, after learning that my ex-husband's father had abandoned his family for an affair, she saw parallels with her own past of being abandoned by her own boyfriend. To rein in her promiscuous ex-husband, she resorted to threatening divorce, which succeeded in getting his attention. She forced him to work under her parents' supervision, controlling his salary, and leaving him without any spending money. Tired of this constrained life, my ex-husband spiraled into madness. Constant arguments with his wife became routine, leading him to choose divorce. However, his in-laws opposed it. Even so, my ex-husband, who chose divorce, swiftly left his wife's side as if fleeing. Consequently, he was left with very little money. Now he wanders from one budget hotel to another. Due to not owning a suit and having poor personal grooming, he struggles to find employment even though he endeavors to search for one. It seems he relies on daily temp jobs, earning just enough to cover his daily meals. He wishes he could go back to the old days again. That's what was written in the letter. I thought to myself, don't mock me by saying you want to get back together with me. While I felt pity for his plight, it was the path he chose. He was marred by infertility issues, infidelity, and disdain towards me at our reunion. He always acted selfishly, never considering my feelings. I am no longer the person I was back then. I have a bright future ahead with my new husband and our soon-to-arrive baby. I instructed my lawyer to issue a restraining order if he ever tried to contact me or appear before me again. And then, I tore up his letter, I'll give birth next month. I do feel both the joy of meeting my baby and the anxiety of my first childbirth. But with the encouragement of my kind husband, I'm getting through each day. He always cares about my health and helps with the chores on weekends. So with him by my side, I'm definitely okay. Today is my husband's day off. Walking through the spa down together, we feel the changing seasons, and afterwards, we soak our feet in a foot bath and take a deep breath. That's our favorite walking route. Oh, the baby just kicked, I exclaimed, and my husband quickly placed his hand on my belly. He then softly spoke to our unborn child. This happiness is not something to be taken for granted. That's why I think we should cherish it. And so, I took another deep breath of the air in this town, surrounded by the beautiful nature.
I'm Marky, 35 years old. I was divorced, then remarried another person. While working full-time, I'm raising 2 children born after remarrying. Today is my older son Tyler's first day at elementary school. He was admitted through a competitive entrance exam to the elementary school affiliated with the university my husband and I both attended. My husband and I took the day off to enjoy our child's big day and headed for the school gate. We arrived early, and at the school gate, there was a line next to the school's name for a parent-child photo with lots of smiles on their faces. Shall we take one together once Dad arrives? We talked while waiting on the side for my husband, who was running a bit late. Then suddenly, a familiar voice I wished I could unhear reached my ears.
Could it be Marky?
A wave of indescribable unease swept through me. Someone called my name again. I only turned my eyes toward the voice and saw what I expected. It was my ex-husband. Beside him stood a boy in the same uniform as my son. No way, it's the same elementary school as my son. I thought they were the same age, but despite the shock, I knew I couldn't ruin the atmosphere of this special day. It's been a while. As I exchanged a greeting I had no desire to make, the owner of the voice stepped closer with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Taylor probably felt anxious about my unusual behavior. He squeezed my hand tightly. The warmth of his tiny hand gradually eased the turmoil within me, making me feel calmer. Yet, with nothing particular to say, I wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Still thinking it inappropriate to leave without saying anything, I muttered a soft "well then" and was about to move when…
What? Trying to run away? After all this time, we had finally seen each other.
Unfortunately, it seemed the other side had no intention of letting the moment pass. In the corner of my diverted gaze, I saw my ex-husband looking amused, and beside him, a boy looking on curiously. Then I heard the clacking of heels in the distance.
Wait, is that your ex-wife? What? A kid? A kid here? Meeting like this? How funny.
Behind my ex-husband, a woman I didn't want to see, Imelda, appeared. Imelda, who had always tried to one-up me with her youthful arrogance, seemed as showy as ever, dressed inappropriately in a tight mini dress and bright red high heels for a prestigious school's first day. Honestly, I couldn't help but wonder how someone like her could have passed the entrance exam for this school. Despite my better judgment not to hold prejudices, remembering her past actions made it difficult not to. As I was lost in these thoughts, my ex-husband maliciously spoke up.
Is he starting school? Seriously, you have a child. Is this your child, by any chance?
Yes, he is.
What? You remarried?
That's right.
So after I dumped you, you ended up with some washed-up, divorced guy with a kid. Remarried with kids, huh? You're an infertile woman.
Stunned by the unbelievable insults, a piercing laughter echoed from the side. After a round of laughter, the two began spewing vulgar conversation.
What's that, Daniel? That's harsh. Talking about her being full of life's stench, calling her defective. That's lawsuit-level stuff.
Huh? Why would I get sued? I mean, anyone considering marrying her. That's what they'd get, right? I thought I caught a beauty with brains and looks, but I was wrong. She's just no fun. Too damn serious. Didn't know how to have fun, or wasn't popular, I guess. A prude who doesn't know how to play. Got bored of her in half a year.
Even if that's true, that's awful to say, especially in front of the kid.
So, that's on her for not satisfying me. Her life's a mess because of her own doing.
That's terrible.
If she could have had kids, it might have been different. Seriously, nothing worked, and she was just defective as a woman.
Stop it, you're making me laugh too hard.
Well, because she was like that, I got to meet you, and we had Eric, so thanks for that.
No way. Thanking the ex? Unbelievable.
Kidding. No thanks to her, and her being happy, impossible. This kid, probably her new husband's stepson, doesn't look like her. She's just a hopeless infertility woman, no matter what.
Does infertility mean she has sexual frigidity?
Huh? Is there even a connection?
Seems like it.
Yikes. I was married to a frigid, infertile woman. That's the worst.
Daniel, that's terrible.
Well, but now I have you, who's super sensitive, right?
Stop it.
Like, seriously, it's just so funny that a woman who can have kids remarries a guy who already has kids. I feel so bad for that guy.
I silently listen to them, and the two assholes endlessly have conversations that makes me want to cover my ears. On a sunny day, in front of the school gates, can adults really talk this trashy out loud in public? They don't seem to see the cold stares of others at all. And it's all just baseless gossip. This much talk is more than enough. I really want to leave these people now. As I was thinking this, sorry for the wait, my husband, Mike, approached me a little too quickly. I deliberately raised my voice to address the ex-couple still engaged in their crude and unproductive conversation. Hey, can I have a moment?
Help, Wart.
We might see each other again in the future. Let me introduce you to my husband. The two turned their gaze towards me, catching sight of my tall husband standing by my side. Instantly, the ex-husband's eyes widened, and his face stiffened in shock. Oblivious to this, Imelda next to him gasped in surprise for a different reason.
Wait, what? Your husband is super handsome. Wow.
Ignoring them, Mike briefly glanced at a kid boy in a uniform between them before politely greeting.
Good morning. I'm Mike. Congratulations to us both on our kids' enrollment. If there's anything in the future, I hope we can support each other.
He then gently put down our younger daughter and held out his hand. Following his lead, the two shook hands lightly with him in an awkward motion. Our daughter, now on the ground, joyfully hugged her brother standing close by. He smiled happily and, with the hand not holding mine, tenderly grasped his sister's tiny hand.
And who is this?
Our younger daughter. She's starting preschool this spring.
You have 2 kids?
Yes, both are truly mine, born and raised. They're incredibly close and adorable siblings. I noticed Mike looking at me with a gentle gaze.
Shall we take a photo and head inside?
Yes, let's go. Excuse us? With a brief nod to the still dazed ex-couple, our family of four headed towards the school gate. We greeted one of my friends nearby and got our family photo taken. Before entering the gate, I glanced back at the spot where we stood earlier. I saw Imelda making a scene and the ex-husband, still unable to move, frozen in place. A few hours later, the first day was over, and we left the school gate and headed slowly to the parking lot. Our kids, as always, were holding hands, chatting, and smiling as they walked. My daughter seemed fascinated by her brother's backpack, looking at it repeatedly. As I couldn't help but smile at the situation. What are you grinning about? It's not a grin. Just thinking they're cute, I said, trying to draw my husband's attention to our two kids. Should we grab some lunch before heading home?
It's still a bit early for that, isn't it?
As we talked like this, we reached our car. I was about to put the kids in the back seat and reach for the passenger door when I heard hurried footsteps approaching. As I was about to turn, I heard a voice saying, "Is your car a Porsche? Are you serious?" I knew it was my ex-husband's voice. He seemed to have been following us for a while, slightly out of breath. "Wait up," Imelda caught up, creating an awkward atmosphere. Actually, I was laughing inside my stomach. Just as I had expected, the guy in front of me wouldn't be satisfied with such mediocre information. My ex-wife, whom I thought was beneath me, is living happily in an unexpected situation. There's no way I can forgive that guy. So, deliberately provoking him with various elements, I did it. Of course, I had no intention of starting a conversation in front of the school gate on such a sunny day. Letting him overhear incomplete information meant he would follow up later. It was all too predictable, and I almost laughed out loud. "What? I have nothing more to say?"
Huh? I have way too much to say.
Responding dismissively as expected, he took the bait. "Too easy." I signaled my husband Mike with my eyes, and he opened the backseat door. After addressing Imelda's son and dismissing Imelda with a few words, Mike lifted the boy into the backseat with our kids. "Be nice, you're friends," he told the kids, handing them drinks and books and patting their heads. "It's all good," he said with a bright smile before quietly closing the door. Watching the whole scene, my ex-husband spat out his words with a severe face.
Feeling smug, huh? Is this some kind of dig at us?
"What do you mean?"
Two kids, happy family. You're trying to rub it in our faces, right?
His emotional outburst only made me more composed. His feelings were always intense, quickly swinging from passionate to furious, and just as quickly to nothing. I remembered the days I was tossed around by his black and white emotions. "Why don't you calm down? What ditch?"
Huh?
We were just going about our day as usual, not trying to make a point or anything. I mean, we haven't even been in touch. I don't know what you have been up to. Of course, I had no idea we'd end up at the same school. How would I make a point of that? If anything, I'm pretty upset about it." The man in front of her fell silent. It seemed there was a bit of guilt for what he had done. So, I decided to cut to the chase. "So, what do you want to know?"
You weren't infertile. What? You were going to a clinic known for treating infertility. That means you were infertile, right?
Eek, why do you keep bringing up infertility?
Because it's true.
Are you saying you've accepted the fact that we had kids?
They look like you.
Despite his earlier claims at the school gate that they didn't, what was this man talking about now? Of course they do. Everyone says, especially our oldest son looks just like me.
Indeed.
See, obviously, they're truly mine and Mike's kids.
What about the infertility treatment?
I never went through infertility treatment. I just got tested to see if I was infertile.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Why would you?
What? You were the one always going on about not being able to. Let's skip the middle part. But after consulting and getting some counseling, the tests showed I'm not infertile and could get pregnant just fine.
Why didn't you say anything? I didn't ask about that.
Maybe because you were too busy hanging out every night? That is, her ex-husband said awkwardly. His gaze shifted briefly to where Mike was smiling, and with a forced shift of his awkward gaze, Mike gave a refreshing smile and said, "It's been a while since we last met."
Why with Marky? Why did you and Marky get to know each other?
Haha. You've been flistered since earlier, wondering why your former coworker is now your ex-wife's husband.
The ex-husband couldn't hide his confusion again. Next to him, Imelda listened to their conversation with a bewildered expression.
Would it have been bad if your former coworker was now your husband?
That's not what I mean.
You're still terrible at lying, huh?
What?
Well, it works out for me too. Actually, Mike and I have known each other way before I met you.
Marky and we've been childhood friends.
Childhood friends? But you guys are quite different in age, right?
Well, I'm the same age as you. Our moms were childhood friends and both lived in the same hometown. If the moms are close, naturally, the kids end up playing together, right? I've known Marky since she was born. We've been childhood friends for a long time. Of course, we didn't see each other much after I started working.
I didn't know that.
I didn't expect Marky's ex-husband to be you either. I was surprised when I saw you near my parents' house.
You saw me.
It wouldn't be strange to be seen. Sometimes Mike also came my parents' home to visit. But at that time, I didn't know that Mike and my ex-husband were former colleagues.
You didn't want to be seen, did you?
How?
You didn't think. You thought I wouldn't say something weird, right?
Hey?
Even after you married, you were all about overtime and business trips, but really just playing around, right? You went to mixers and parties, and you really made your rounds with the girls at work, didn't you?
Hey, Mike. Stop it.
The ex-husband's discomfort was becoming more apparent. Panicking now over something that happened years ago, who is he trying to fool? Despite my cold thoughts, I couldn't stop laughing on the inside. So, wanting to laugh more, I deliberately tangled with my ex-husband. What? Are you saying you got scared seeing Mike's face earlier? Thought all of it would come out.
That's...
Wow, really? So, it's that kind of scandalous story you wanted to hide. I wonder what kind of scandalous story it could be. Standing beside my flistered ex-husband, Imelda started to chime in. Seriously, that's bad. You've shown way worse before. No need to act all innocent now, I thought to myself, but with a smile that didn't reach my eyes, I simply said, "Don't worry. No need to freak out now. I knew everything." About Daniel's wandering eye and cheating, I knew.
Why?
He probably never imagined that everything had been out in the open back then, not even in his wildest dreams. The utterly dumbfounded look on my ex-husband's face was so ludicrous, it almost made me stop laughing. At the same time, I felt deep disdain for how little he thought of me. From that time on, he thought of me that way. No matter what I do, she doesn't notice. But the real me was different. I'm not that insensitive. Suppressing the urge to rant, I began to tell my ex-husband a story, making it sound amusing. There was this girl in my cohort who loved mixers and parties. She used to hang out all the time and probably still does. And she's good with people and has a great memory. She saw Daniel's face in one of my wedding photos I showed her by chance, and she was like, "Is this your husband? Seriously, your husband is trouble." She started panicking and then told me all about Daniel's other side.
Huh? Other side?
Oh, you weren't aware. The face you showed me and your real face are different, right? I knew that much without having to ask anyone, I said, and their eyes widened in surprise. It's only natural that people who lack such awareness will hurt those around them by behaving that way. Remembering how much it had hurt back then, I bit my lower lip for a moment. This girl, she's amazing. She even sent me videos and photos of Daniel flirting with other girls. This could be evidence if anything happens, she said, worried about me. I was shocked to find out he was partying like he was single right from the start of our marriage. She was a real lifesaver. Did you meet your wife at one of those parties too? If I mentioned that, my ex-husband would clam up. Silence is as good as admission. But admission or not, I still have all the evidence. It's even on my phone in my purse right now. Want me to show you? I can show you the evidence right now. At my offer, my ex-husband vigorously shook his head. No need to reject it that strongly, I laughed, ignoring my ex-husband's glaring look as I continued. It was right after I heard that. We hadn't been married for even a year. Mike sent me a message asking me to go out for a meal to celebrate our marriage. That's when I heard all about what Daniel was up to at his company.
XO.
I knew about my ex-husband's infidelity even earlier than my husband thought. The realization on my ex-husband's face was pitiful.
Seriously? Why?
Why did I tell Marky? Well, it's simple. My colleague who kept playing even after getting married was an important childhood friend. Who would I choose? Obviously, the childhood friend. So, I told her everything I knew. Even if it meant Marky got hurt, it was better she knew sooner rather than later.
Everything.
Everything means everything. About the girls at work, the frequent issues with women, and even the dwindling trust of his boss. Oh, remember the big drama when one of the girls claimed she was pregnant and demanded you take responsibility? That led you to quit your job, right?
That's right. Our marriage was short-lived, only a year and a half. But during that time, my husband suddenly quit job. He said it was for a career advancement, but in reality, he couldn't get another job for the long time and seemed to spend his days just hanging out after interviews.
Did you know about that too?
Of course, I did.
Huh? You didn't say anything at the time.
What's the point in saying? Would you have stopped if I had?
That's...
Well, it doesn't matter. By then, I couldn't accept Daniel for who he was anymore. We barely spoke since you were rarely home, so it wasn't really about saying or not saying.
I wasn't home, that's true.
As a result, your affair partner got pregnant. For Daniel, who was so fussy about getting pregnant, that must have been okay.
Huh? That's because you never got pregnant. But wait, why did you get pregnant?
What is he talking about? I clearly said earlier I was able to get pregnant.
Then,
Another major factor should come to mind right away. I desperately tried to suppress the anger rising in my head due to sheer arrogance. Well, yeah, because there was no factor for pregnancy.
factor for pregnancy?
Pregnancy requires both a man and a woman, right?
Of course. It happens when a man and a woman do what they do.
So I could get pregnant normally with Mike, but not with Daniel. What does that tell you? Would he realize something, or would he not? As expected, he started to spout nonsense. How would I know something like that? My faint hope was betrayed, as always, when it came to this man. To silence the man who started to lash out, I calmly declared, Daniel was sterile. For a moment, time seemed to stop at my words. Then, suddenly, the man in front of me started laughing as if holding his stomach.
What are you talking about? I have a kid right here. If I didn't have the seed, this boy wouldn't exist, would he?
His exasperated laughter was as if to say, Are you out of your mind? Then maybe you should take a look at your wife's face.
How?
Look at your wife's face. All eyes shifted. Ahead stood Imelda, her face drained of color, flashy in appearance. Her beautifully manicured fingertips were trembling ever so slightly. She was desperately trying to hide her expression from her husband. It's clearly odd, yet even seeing her like that, the husband didn't seem to catch on. You okay? You look pale.
Yeah.
Her barely audible reply inevitably came back to me.
Hey, it's because you said something weird. She's freaking out.
Well, of course, she'd be shaking. Something she's hidden for years might come out. Looking again at Imelda, her colorless face seemed on the verge of tears.
Hey, don't mess around. Don't talk nonsense.
He's turning red and even sweating. How stupid he is. He continued to defend Marky without knowing anything about what she did, but I dropped the biggest bomb without hesitation. The thing that didn't make sense was only for me. When I went for the tests, I had no issues. It was the husband who was sterile.
Nah.
Really, I've had enough. All this time, being looked down upon by that sterile man, forced into things, and then blamed for being infertile. My rights were completely ignored.
Hey.
Huh?
The test results.
This person's memory seems to conveniently drop anything inconvenient. Fits right into an all-or-nothing personality. When we were going through fertility consultations, you had a test once, right, Daniel?
Did I?
Really convenient, huh? Why do I have to do this here? Complaining at the clinic. Who was that again? The ex-husband, having dredged up the memory, mutters in a small voice. Forgetting such an experience, he's really off his rocker in more ways than one. I heard it from Mike. At a company party, Daniel was boasting he'd never gotten anyone pregnant despite not using protection.
Mike, you.
Was I not supposed to say? You were bragging like it was some epic tale, so I thought it didn't matter who heard it.
Facing my ex-husband's beet red and angry face, while Mike stays cool as a cucumber. Shows how much peace of mind can affect you, I thought vaguely. That's why, if it's true, it wouldn't be weird at all if I couldn't get pregnant. That's why I dragged Daniel to the fertility consultations.
No way.
I wanted to clarify if the infertility issue was on your side.
What?
Then it turned out to be a bingo. Daniel is definitely shooting blanks. If you doubt it, I can show you the test results, I said as my ex-husband bit his lip. The woman next to him, Imelda, looks like she might collapse any moment. So, when Daniel brought this woman, I knew, he's been duped. The child in her belly isn't Daniel's. My ex-husband, utterly shocked, stammers and screams with a voice turned high-pitched.
What? Why didn't you say anything?
It's none of my business. You two were the ones getting all excited. After all, you're the one who ruined my marriage. You left me because you thought she was pregnant with your child. You left without saying anything to me, right? And the affair with the coworker was the worst. Trying to settle things behind your wife's back. And it was a partially listed company you got into through connections.
Damn.
Wait a minute. My ex-husband, red as a lobster and shaking with rage, starts to grab not me but Imelda by the collar before I even finish speaking. Stop, she pleads in a weak voice, but his gripping hand does not stop. Driven by emotion, he shakes her collar and curses.
You. Whose kid did you try to pin on me, you floozy?
His tightening grip slowly suffocates Imelda.
But I really didn't know who the dad was. Daniel was just there for me at that time.
What? Just because I happened to be there at the time?
That's not it.
Imelda's hands overlap his, slightly loosening his grip. My ex-husband keeps asking Imelda, who is breathing heavily.
What do you mean by not it? You knew it wasn't my child, didn't you?
The girls around us were saying that we don't have to worry about getting pregnant with Daniel, even without protection. So, I thought maybe you were infertile.
What? Was I just a pawn in some kind of crazy gamble? Seriously, screw this.
I'm sorry.
So you knew and still decided to burden me with your lives?
I'm sorry.
A farcical display unfolding right before my eyes. This farce unfolding before me cools my emotions. Honestly, even witnessing their dangerous behavior, I don't intend to take sides. One is my ex-husband, and the other his former mistress who took him away. I felt no urge to stop what was happening. Glancing briefly at the back seat, I could faintly see inside a car, where three kids seemed to happily look at a book together, their laughter occasionally reaching my ears. Please, don't look this way, I wished as I waited with a distant gaze for the ugly dispute to quiet down. It's been a month since school started. Today, too, I drop off my son in front of the school gate.
Bye, Mom. I'm off.
All right, have a good day. He quickly finds his friends and they greet each other before walking through the school gate together. Watching his small back disappear into the school building, I head to the place where I'm meeting Mike.
Did you drop him off without any issues?
Of course. He seems to have made new friends already. He went into school looking happy.
That's good to hear.
Today, we're both taking a day off. After dropping off my son and Mike, his daughter, we went to our favorite cafe to enjoy a breakfast together, savoring some rare weekday couple time.
By the way, what happened to that kid?
My husband is referring to my ex-husband's child. It seems like he transferred school. They were in a different class, and I only heard it from some moms, but after the first day of the school, he never showed up again, and his seat just disappeared.
That stuff. They had such terrible parents, but it's not the kid's fault.
Yeah, you're right. At that time, the three kids were smiling and playing together in the car. The temperature was so different from the situation outside that it made my heart heavy even as I was involved. But it was a delicate issue I couldn't do anything about, as much as it involved my ex-husband. Rather, if I hadn't let go of my ex-husband at that time, maybe I couldn't have saved that child's life. I wanted to protect a small life rather than continue a broken marriage, I found myself thinking. Back then, I simply thought, as long as that small life is saved, it's good, but now I occasionally wonder, was it really good for that child to be born? And it makes my chest tight. Noticing my downcast mood, my husband chuckles softly.
You're thinking about something troublesome again, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Eh?
I saw them in the city the other day. 3 of them were out together, side by side.
Oh, really?
Yo, he looked really refreshed.
Remembering the 3 of them with distant eyes, Mike smiles softly. Then, everything must be okay. So, maybe there was a reason we met that day. Yeah, it must have been fate. Honestly, it was quite stressful, though, Mike joked, and I can only feel grateful to him. I can't thank him enough. He's someone I need to stay by my side forever. If only the other 2 would feel the same. And I hope they'll protect that kid. Thinking this, I looked up to see a faint rainbow in the sky.
Mike, congratulations on getting accepted. But I'm sorry, we can't afford the tuition.
I couldn't believe my husband's words and stood up forcefully from my chair. Hold on a second. That's crazy. Why can't we afford the tuition? Mike remained seated and expressionless.
That's because, I didn't expect this, so I spent it all on Ashley's beauty treatments. Makeup and fashion cost a fortune,
Turning his back to us while changing his clothes, Logan said that without a hint of remorse. All the past hardships came flooding back to me. I couldn't stand the thought that he spent so much on his niece Ashley while keeping Mike so restricted. I have some savings too. I scrimped and saved because you told me to. But Logan just laughed out loud when he heard that.
Oh, the money hidden in that room. I spent all of that on Ashley too. Too bad.
That's a lie. It has to be a lie.
It's your fault. You used the same PIN as our joint account. Of course, I used it.
I felt a coldness spreading through my body. I never thought Logan would find out, so I set it to the same PIN as our joint account. But knowing this doesn't change the fact that it was my money. I couldn't stand it any longer and tried to confront Logan physically. Just before I could reach him, Mike stood up from his chair and grabbed my arm to stop me. Let go, Mike, please let me go.
Mom, it's okay. Because...
He whispered in my ear, and I suddenly stopped. Reassured by Mike's words, I continued with the enrollment process. I am Olivia. After graduating from a cosmetology school, I worked at a local beauty salon. Once, I was asked to do bridal makeup for a wedding guest. That's where I met Logan. I was focused on my work and didn't pay much attention, but Logan seemed to have fallen for me at first sight. He handed me a note with his contact information as he was leaving.
Sorry if this bothers you, but please call me if you're interested.
Getting such requests wasn't unusual in my job. Since I was thinking about marriage at that time, I saw it as fate and started dating him. Things moved quickly, and eventually, I married Logan. Married life was very blissful, but there was one issue that troubled me. My relationship with my Mill, Amelia. She was close to Logan's sister-in-law, Sophia, and she always compared me to Sophia. However, aside from that, things were smooth. A year after I got married, Sophia had Ashley, and shortly after, I had Mike. Later, a baby shower was held at Logan's family home for Ashley and Mike. Everyone's attention was on Ashley. With her bright eyes, she was bound to be a beauty, resembling Logan somehow, which made everyone jest about her being Logan's child. I felt uneasy hearing this. It's not pleasant to be told that a relative's child resembles your husband. But unaware of my feelings, Amelia was completely taken with Ashley.
She's just adorable, isn't she? I can't wait to see what she becomes. Unlike the other one, unfortunately.
She glanced at Mike as she said that and snickered. This made the other relatives snicker too.
Well, the other one doesn't really matter, does it? But Amelia, I want to make her become a model.
Hearing this, Amelia's face lit up.
A model. That's a brilliant idea. But how does one become a model?
Sophia answered with a smug look.
Don't worry, I may not look like it, but I have an experience as a model. I've got connections, you know?
Indeed, Sophia had been a part-time model during her college days. She wasn't a top seller, but the experience was significant. Her casual actions and fashion sense used that experience. Working in a salon, I could tell Sophia wasn't just full talk.
Really? That's reassuring.
Modeling, right. They often appear on TV.
Yes, exactly. Some of them even become actresses. If she becomes a model, we might get famous too.
At that, the relatives suddenly got excited, showering Ashley with hopeful words. Even Logan joined in, praising Sophia. Unnoticed by anyone, I was in the corner of the room, holding Mike in my arms. Mike gazed into my face with an innocent smile. Suddenly, I felt so sorry for him that I almost cried. Sophia, basking in everyone's attention, looked very pleased.
Well, everyone, children don't grow up overnight, so let's look forward to her growth.
I know. If you need money, just say the word. I'll pay whatever it takes.
Thank you so much, Amelia.
After that, we were completely ignored by the relatives. Struggling with the favoritism towards Ashley, I worked hard to raise Mike. Logan hardly helped with childcare at all. Please, Logan, spend some time with Mike. It's not fair to him. No matter how desperately I pleaded, Logan wouldn't listen.
Quiet, I'm busy with work. You alone should be enough to take care of him.
He would always brush everything off and ignore it, leaving me to handle everything. I regretted marrying Logan but didn't have the courage to leave. The only salvation came from my parents, who helped when I was at my lowest and truly adored Mike. Their support was the only thing keeping me together. Somehow, I managed to raise Mike. 10 years later, Mike had grown into a healthy middle schooler. Logan was still disinterested in parenting, but suddenly wanted to talk when he came home from work.
Mike's still at school, right? When will he be back?
He'll be back soon. What's up? The fact that Logan was asking about Mike gave me a bad feeling.
I want him to aim for medical school. Tell him to get ready to study for that.
Logan's cold words took me aback. Wait a minute. What are you suddenly saying? Don't decide his future on your own. Annoyed by my desperate plea, Logan clicked his tongue loudly.
Listen, I'm his father. You don't get a say. Got it?
I can accept that. You've never been involved in raising him.
Shut up. That's your role, isn't it? Are you earning enough to talk back to me?
Despite what Logan said, I couldn't back down. At least tell me why medical school?
It's obvious. It's for my parents' sake. It's for the looks.
I was shocked by his response. What does he think of his own child? However, Logan continued without paying attention to me.
You get it. We're always being compared to William's family. After all, Ashley is beautiful, but Mike has nothing going for him.
He seemed to have a lot of pent-up frustration and kept spewing harsh words.
It's a disgrace, a disgrace. So, he needs to at least become smart, understand.
I clenched my fists and couldn't say a word, feeling as if being stabbed by a knife.
Well, that's how it is. I'll tell Mike myself. He's going to study hard from now on, so don't you interfere.
With that, he left the room. I was worried about my son but couldn't defy Logan. I secretly resolved to support Mike as much as I could. Then Mike's days became filled with studying. After school, he would stay at the tutoring center until late at night, and on weekends, Logan found him a private tutor. He wasn't allowed any playtime outside of studying, and he couldn't even fully participate in school events. Whenever Mike's grades slipped even slightly, Logan would scold him mercilessly. Thanks to his efforts, Mike graduated at the top of his middle school class and entered a prestigious high school in the area. But Logan didn't ease up and ordered me to save money.
Hey, you, save money. We need it for tuition, so don't you dare spend on luxuries.
Please, let's stop this. This isn't good for anyone. Please reconsider. I desperately tried to stop Logan, but he wouldn't listen.
Shut up. Didn't I tell you not to interfere? If you keep nagging, I'll kick you out of the house.
I couldn't stand up to him after being threatened like that. But it was clear that Mike was overexerting himself. At this rate, his spirit might break. When Logan was out, I seized the moment to speak with Mike. Mike, are you okay? I need to talk to you for a minute. Mike was solving problems at his desk and glanced at me without stopping.
I'm okay for now, but I can talk long. I have to finish all this by tomorrow.
Okay, I'll make it quick. Dad says you have to go to med school, but it's not mandatory. If you want to do something else, it's okay to pursue that path. Hearing my words, Mike smiled gently.
Thanks, Mom. It's nice of you to say that. But I will aim for med school. It might make Dad recognize me, and he might start treating you better.
Mike's kindness made me want to cry. I felt ashamed of being submissive to Logan. Okay, I understand. But please don't hesitate to tell me if it gets too hard. I'm on your side, remember that.
I understand, Mom. I won't bear it all alone.
Then keep up the good work. With that, I left Mike's room and cried silently in the living room, careful not to let Mike hear me crying. In high school, Mike maintained top grades and applied to a national university's medical school. 3 years later, on the day of the results, Mike checked online. He tentatively looked at the screen, and his face brightened.
We did it, Mom. I got in.
Really? Congratulations. Mike and I shed tears of joy together. I immediately contacted Logan and went out to shop for a celebration. That evening, the dinner table was laden with lavish dishes. I talked with Mike about our hardships, waiting for Logan to come home. After 8 p.m., Logan returned from work, but he didn't look very pleased. What's wrong? Mike got into med school. Logan looked awkward.
I never really thought he'd actually pass.
He muttered to himself while taking off his suit jacket. What are you talking about? Of course, he passed. He worked so hard for it. Ignoring my confusion, Logan turned to Mike and said something unbelievable.
Mike, congratulations on your acceptance. But unfortunately, we can't afford the tuition.
I stood up from my chair, startled. Wait a minute, that's not right. Why can't we afford the tuition? Mike remained seated and expressionless.
That's because I didn't expect this to happen, so I spent it all.
On what?
Ashley's beauty treatments. She's going into modeling seriously now, so makeup and fashion cost a lot. It can't be helped.
Logan said this nonchalantly, turning his back to us while changing his clothes. All the hardships we had gone through came flooding back. I couldn't forgive him for spending on Ashley after restricting Mike so much. Enough already. What are we supposed to do now?
Shut up. Don't talk back to me like that.
Logan then glared at Mike and yelled.
What are you looking at? Didn't you hear? Figure out the tuition yourself. Don't rely on your parents.
Okay, I understand. I'll manage it myself.
Mike's face was like a mask, showing no emotion. It's okay, Mike. You don't have to worry. I stood in front of Logan to defend Mike. I have savings too. I saved desperately because you told me to. But Logan just laughed loudly upon hearing this.
Oh, the stash hidden in that room. I spent all of it on Ashley. Too bad.
No, that can't be true. It must be a lie.
If you think it's a lie, go see for yourself. It's your fault anyway. It's the same PIN you always use for the account. Of course, I used it.
I felt a coldness spread throughout my body. I never thought Logan would find it. I used the same PIN as our joint account. But even though he knows, it's still my money. I couldn't tolerate him for touching it. I can't forgive you anymore.
What? If you have complaints, say them.
I couldn't hold back and tried to grab Logan. Just before I could, Mike stood up from his chair and held my arm to stop me. Let go, Mike, please let go.
Mom, it's okay. Because...
He whispered softly, and I stopped abruptly. Logan, seemingly unaware, just smirked.
Good job, Mike. You see, she should learn from you. Talking back is useless.
Logan laughed at us and then went to take a bath. Relieved by Mike's words, I proceeded with the enrollment process. Mike had seen my struggle and had been preparing his own solutions. He had secretly started working part-time, unnoticed by Logan. I was surprised he could do that amid his busy schedule. But given his intensive study and the limited earning potential for students, Mike soon realized the difficulty of earning money and consulted my parents. My father, who worked in finance, knew a lot about that area. Apparently, Mike learned from my father how to earn money through stock trading. I wasn't aware, But Mike found out that one could start investing in stocks with as little as $100. Given his intelligence, Mike quickly learned how it worked. He invested the money he earned from his part-time job, gradually increasing his assets. Though he made money, it wasn't enough for him to be independent from our support, so Logan never found out about it. By the end of high school, Mike had managed to save enough for his college enrollment fees. I can even imagine how hard it must have been to earn that much. However, Mike had kept this a secret from everyone except my parents. Logan's parents never even gave Mike a Christmas present. Logan doted only on Ashley, spending money on her, while I covered all educational expenses with the money I earned. Had Logan known Mike was earning money, he would have taken it immediately. That's why we kept silent until the last moment. Amazed at Mike's intelligence, I felt compelled to take action. I decided to divorce Logan, believing that staying with him would only bring misery to both Mike and me. Afterward, Mike and Ashley graduated from high school. A celebratory meal was organized with Logan's family for the first time in a while. Logan's parents were probably surprised that Mike got into medical school, as everyone praised him, which made me happy. But I didn't let myself get too carried away. I was watching for an opportunity not to be missed. The graduation celebration ended successfully, and it was decided that we would gather again soon. Time flew by, and soon it was the day of the gathering. This was my chance. I brought the diaries I had been keeping and the DNA test results, knowing I couldn't show them to the two. After asking Mike and Ashley to play somewhere else, I declared in front of all the relatives that I was divorcing Logan. Please listen, everyone. I have decided to divorce Logan. The relatives fell silent, shocked by my announcement. Logan dropped his chopsticks in surprise.
What? You? Divorce? What are you suddenly talking about?
That's outrageous, even as a joke.
I placed the pile of diaries on the table. Everything that has happened to me is written here. If you want to know why, just read these. Logan smacked the pile of diaries angrily.
This is nonsense. Just complaints? What's the point?
The diaries scattered across the table. The relatives picked them up, whispering among themselves, while Logan's brother, William, read with interest.
Oh man, you're terrible. Haven't changed a bit since you were a kid.
Logan, angered by William's comment, slammed the table.
Even you're mocking me? The stuff written there is all lies, Olivia. Don't think this will end easily.
But for Mike's future, I couldn't back down. I placed the DNA test results on the table for everyone to see. Logan turned pale and tried to hide them, but William snatched them first.
Come on, don't hide it now. Better to lay it all out and feel relieved.
William smirked while reading the results, but his smile faded as he continued. The hand holding the DNA results was trembling, and the eyes were darting around.
What does this mean, Olivia?
William asked, his voice trembling. When Mike enrolled, we all gathered, right? That's when I secretly took Logan and Ashley's utensils and had their DNA tested. The results show they are parent and child. Sophia gasped and covered her mouth, visibly shaken. The revelation caused an uproar among the relatives, plunging the room into chaos.
Olivia, isn't this going too far?
On what basis did you do such a thing?
I explained the reasoning behind my suspicions to everyone. I always thought it was strange. Logan doted on Ashley more than Mike, and Ashley closely resembles Logan. That's why I thought they were having an affair. Sophia glared at me and threw a diary at me.
Don't make baseless accusations. Isn't this just a vendetta?
That's why I provided evidence. I'm fed up with this favoritism. I'm taking this chance to sever ties with all of you. My declaration of disownment incensed the relatives. The anger of Logan's parents was particularly intense.
It's unacceptable. Mike's medical school acceptance is our pride.
Yes, and now you talk of severance. What will the neighbors think? It looks bad for us.
I listened to Logan's parents' words with disdain. They had always favored Ashley and did nothing for Mike. Yet now they claimed pride in his achievement. It was too convenient. I don't care about your circumstances. What about Logan and Sophia's situation? All eyes turned to Logan and Sophia.
This is fake. She's framing us because we didn't pay attention to her.
Sophia desperately blurted out her words, and Logan joined in.
She's right, brother. Trust me, I wouldn't do such a thing. And the DNA was taken without consent. This proves nothing.
The relatives sided with Logan, and they started blaming us.
Olivia, you've done something outrageous. This isn't a laughing matter.
If you admit it now, apologize right here with him. We can let it go then.
I maintained a firm demeanor. Unfortunately, that DNA test is genuine. I have no reason to apologize. William glared at Logan, irritated by my stance.
You keep making a fool of us. Logan, say something. It's your responsibility too.
I'll listen to your complaints at home. So apologize now. Otherwise, you're troubling me and everyone.
Trying to save his own skin, Logan attempted to talk me down. If you keep saying it's fake, let's do another test with William, Logan, and Ashley. Then even William can be sure.
Enough already, Sophia exclaimed.
William gestured for her to calm down.
Indeed. We need to settle this once and for all. Let's test again.
But Logan and Sophia looked awkwardly at each other. Without noticing, Logan's father, Ethan, slammed the table.
Enough. Olivia, I will sue you for defamation. Prepare to pay a hefty compensation. Now get out.
So, I left the scene. Later, Ethan had Ashley and Logan retested to prove my claims false, hiring a lawyer at great expense. He was desperate to make me apologize. A week later, we were summoned to Logan's family home again, where Ethan held the envelope with the DNA results.
Now that everyone is here, let's open this.
He then opened the envelope and began reading the DNA results. Amelia was smirking maliciously, already convinced of the lie.
Olivia, are you ready to apologize on your knees?
William crossed his arms, glaring at me, while Ethan remained silent, his face turning red as he continued to read the DNA results. Due to the prolonged silence, Amelia looked at him with suspicion.
What's taking so long? Hurry up and tell us the results.
William also looked anxiously towards Ethan, who sighed deeply and placed the DNA results on the table.
It's confirmed that Ashley and Logan are parent and child.
Amelia screamed in shock.
What? So, Sophia and Logan were really having an affair?
William was so angry he couldn't speak, just clenched his fists tightly.
Logan, explain yourself. Make us understand.
A vein throbbed on Ethan's forehead. Next to a sweating Logan who looked down, Sophia covered her face and collapsed on the table. An awkward silence lingered on. And it was Sophia who broke the silence.
It's not my fault. It's Logan's fault.
She tearfully explained how the affair started. Feeling lonely because Logan's brother, William, was always busy with work, she became closer to Logan as she complained, and eventually she got pregnant with Ashley. She confessed they concocted a plan to keep it secret from their partners. William, upon hearing this, lunged at Logan.
You. How could you act so normal all this time? You must have been mocking me inside.
Logan, shaken by William, desperately tried to justify himself.
I wasn't mocking. I got carried away. I respect you, brother. I thought Ashley was cute, and I felt responsible, so I wanted to raise her properly.
Hearing this, I sighed deeply, feeling more pity than anger. Logan's parents seemed utterly disgusted by their son's disgrace.
What a shameful display. Sophia, we're getting a divorce. Pack your things and leave once we get home.
Sophia looked up and clung to William.
Wait, it was just a moment of confusion. I love you.
But William looked at her with contempt.
You might say that, but I can no longer love you.
Sophia wailed and curled up on the floor. Ethan coldly observed.
This is unprecedented. Logan, Sophia, you both are a disgrace to our family. Don't ever appear before me again.
Thus, Logan, Sophia, and Ashley were ostracized. I proceeded with the divorce from Logan, who was stalling. So I consulted my father for a competent lawyer. The lawyer's efforts finally settled the divorce. Logan's resistance increased the settlement, and he ended up paying more alimony and child support than average. I plan to claim the child support for Mike's college expenses. Sophia's divorce with William was finalized, and she and Ashley began living with Logan. Their life seemed much harder than before. Ashley and I started talking more, and she became closer to Mike.
I was also pressured by my parents and relatives to become a model, which was tough. This situation was shocking, but I feel relieved now.
Ashley also kept in contact with William, through whom we learned about the aftermath at Logan's family home. Amelia, unable to contain her shock, portrayed herself as a tragic heroine to the neighbors, exposing the family's shame. This led to them being ridiculed. As it turned out, the neighbors disliked Logan's family, seizing the opportunity to mock them. Consequently, Logan's parents, their pride wounded, became recluses in their own home. And just like that, they abandoned their house overnight and moved somewhere else. But since we were estranged, it no longer concerned me. Mike and I moved back to my parents' house. Mike is thoroughly enjoying his university life, focusing on his studies while also engaging in part-time work and club activities. It seems he even has a girlfriend now, and he's having the time of his life. I also rented a property from my parents and opened a cooking school there. Having my own school has been a long-held dream, so I'm truly happy. Ashley seemed interested in this kind of work and asked to be hired as a part-time employee. I hired her at Mike's request, and she's been a great help, working very hard. After a long period of struggle, everything has turned out well. Now, earning a living doing what I love, I am very content.
I sold it for $400,000, so I'm going on a trip abroad with my mistress.
John's voice was inappropriately cheerful, making me blurt out, "What?" He called me while he was in the hospital. He sold the house for $400,000. What does that mean? That was a cherished home I inherited from my dad. And to openly declare he has a mistress, that's just insane. What do you mean you sold the house? What about Lisa? As soon as I mentioned her daughter, John snorted with laughter.
I've always found her annoying. She acts so disrespectful towards adults. Of course, I'm leaving her behind.
What a thing to say about his own daughter. I was filled with rage and shock at the news of him selling the house and running away with his mistress. My mind was reeling. I have to stop John. Even if he says he sold the house, it can't be handed over that quickly. I have to do something. My name is Emily, a 39-year-old housewife. I wish I could say I live a content life with my husband, John, a year older than me, and our 9-year-old daughter, Lisa, but our relationship is far from harmonious. Since our marriage, John's personality has gradually twisted, and I suspect he has been cheating for a year now. Without proof, I've been helpless, but John hasn't been very secretive about his affair. John, who works in a factory, heads out to drink somewhere 4 or 5 days a week after work. It might be with co-workers, but he didn't used to go out as much until a year ago. Moreover, he comes home with a distinctive perfume scent and has been preparing expensive bags and shoes I've never seen before. Of course, they're not for me, but for someone else, as he leaves with these gifts time and again. I've been too scared to confront him about his cheating, remaining timid and unable to act until I can gather proof. He's like a completely different person from the one I met. John and I met 10 years ago, got married after a year of dating. Drawn in by his kind and gentlemanly demeanor, and before I knew it, I was in love. He proposed on our first anniversary, and soon after, Lisa was born. It looked like a very happy marriage from the outside. Why did things turn out this way? The troubles began when Lisa turned 1. She became more active and curious about everything in the house, making childcare increasingly difficult. I was a full-time housewife and took care of Lisa all day, but sometimes I needed help from John when he finished work with bathing and meals. John helped with childcare at first because he was aware of being a father, but as it continued every day, he gradually became disgusted and stopped trying to get involved in childcare.
I've been thinking, isn't this your job? You're the full-time housewife, so you should be able to handle the childcare on your own. Why does a tired man like me have to help out?
Exploding with frustration, John spat out these harsh words and quickly retreated to his bedroom, leaving Lisa and me in the living room. I was deeply hurt by his words as I tried to calm down Lisa, who was going through her tantrum phase and crying about wearing her pajamas. After that, John completely stopped interacting with Lisa. Even when she asked him to play on his days off, saying, "Daddy, let's play," he would reply, busy reading his racing magazine, playing his mom's job, "I'm busy right now." He never really listened to Lisa's feelings. Lisa cried, "No."
Hey, don't cry over something like this. What kind of upbringing is Emily giving you? A full-time housewife who can't even handle childcare, how incompetent.
He would say, glaring at Lisa and me in turn. I didn't want Lisa to hear such harsh words from John, so we had to go back to our room and play together. Even I want to read and watch movies, but living closely with Lisa means I hardly have time for myself. Yet John enjoys his hobby, horse racing, while I have to endure his verbal abuse. It's just not fair. But since our household depends on John's income, I couldn't complain. Without him, I wouldn't be able to provide for Lisa on my own. I was frustrated with myself. So, John has been disinterested in parenting, living as he pleases. 8 years have passed, and Lisa is now 9 years old. John's harsh words never ceased, and the kind John from before is nowhere to be seen. I've been living with him solely for Lisa's sake, trying my best not to upset him.
Mom, you're good at drawing. You should do it as a job.
One day, while drawing with Lisa, she suddenly said this. Really? A job in drawing?
I think your drawings are gentle and really beautiful.
Lisa laughed cheerfully at the animal illustrations I had drawn. I've always enjoyed drawing, and there was a time when I even aimed to be a cartoonist. Realizing midway that the path to becoming a cartoonist was too tough, I gave up, but I still draw illustrations as a hobby.
Lisa, I always show your drawings to my friends, Ashley and Samantha, and brag about them. They both say they're amazing and wish they had a mom who could draw like that.
Despite her father, John, being difficult, Lisa has grown up to be honest and straightforward. Her personality is bright and the total opposite of my more introverted nature. She seems to have many friends at school and is favored by her teacher. I felt so proud that Lisa appreciated my drawings. Thinking that Lisa notices me boosted my confidence. Thank you. That means a lot to me. When I said that, Lisa smiled like a blooming flower again. Seeing Lisa smile makes me think I can keep enduring this life. I thought this quietly to myself. That night, John, as usual, came home drunk, collapsing in the living room right after entering. He was drunk. His drinking had become frequent, worryingly so. I sighed and pulled his jacket off the slumped over John, checking his pockets. What's this? Normally finding nothing but keys in his pocket, this time a piece of paper caught my attention. It was a receipt with a hotel name on it, clearly visible. This is definite proof of his cheating. I had been suspecting infidelity, but now I had physical evidence. Trying to calm my uneasy heart, I carefully stashed the receipt on a shelf. Then I started to think about how to confront John. The next day, still partly drunk, John left the house. After Lisa went to school, I was doing household chores as usual, but I couldn't stop thinking about yesterday's receipt. I had a hunch John was cheating, and it was my choice not to confront him about it. But now with concrete evidence, it's hard to continue pretending and live as a married couple in name only. Within a week, no, in a few days, I want to make him admit his infidelity and get an apology. But how should I do it? As I was pondering this, my phone started to vibrate. Who could it be at this time? It was unusual to get a call during the day. Looking at my phone, I saw an unfamiliar number. With a sense of foreboding, I answered the call.
Hello, is this Mrs. Murphy?
Yes, that's me, but who is this?
This is from State General Hospital. I'm afraid John has been brought in by ambulance.
The call was from the biggest hospital in the area. The hospital staff explained that John had been brought in for emergency surgery due to a kidney issue, and that he would likely need a transplant as his condition was severe. Confused by the sudden news, I was asked by the doctor, "Are you all right?" "Yes, can he do that kidney transplant?"
Yes, we'll start looking for a donor immediately if we find a match.
Okay.
Then we can proceed with the transplant surgery.
Suddenly hearing that John was sick and needed a kidney transplant, my mind was in turmoil, but the doctor continued to explain the transplant procedure.
we'll start checking for compatibility with potential donors. So please cooperate with this.
I only understood half of what the doctor said, but it was clear John was in a serious condition. Despite his mistreatment and infidelity, I didn't wish for him to lose his life. I wanted him to survive if possible. I spent that night thinking about John's transplant surgery. After a few weeks, we found out the results for potential kidney donors, mostly family. To my surprise, I was the best match. John's parents were still alive but in poor health, unable to undergo surgery. As an only child and being in good health and blood type compatible, it turned out I was the best option for John. I'd be lying if I said I didn't hesitate. But I couldn't compare that to John's life. With that in mind, I decided to become John's kidney donor. When I explained to Lisa about John's condition and the transplant, she cheerfully said, "Got it. Take care and do your best." While I was hospitalized, Lisa would stay with her grandparents. Though they were in poor health, they were mostly able to manage at home. Lisa was happy to stay with her grandparents as she got along well with them. At least I can be at ease for a while. It's good that Lisa is such an understanding child. Relieved, I went ahead with the transplant surgery. A week later, after signing the consent forms and undergoing health checks, I underwent the kidney transplant for John. The surgery was surprisingly straightforward, and I was in the hospital for about a week, while John stayed for about 10 days. Fortunately, there were no major health issues, and the recovery was smooth. The day before I was discharged, my phone rang again. Wondering who it could be this time, I answered.
Hello, it's me.
I heard a familiar voice and felt a shiver. It was John himself. Thinking he might thank me for being a donor, I asked, "Long time no see. How are you feeling post-surgery?" I expected him to say something like, "Thanks, Emily, I'm feeling better." But what I heard next was unexpected.
I'd like to talk about our house.
John paused, suddenly bringing up the house, and I was taken aback.
I sold it for $400,000, so I'm going on a trip abroad with my mistress.
John's voice was inappropriately cheerful, making me blurt out, "What?" He called during his hospital stay to say he sold the house for $400,000. What does that mean? That was a cherished home I inherited from my father, and to openly declare he has a mistress, that's just insane. What do you mean you sold the house? What about Lisa? As soon as I mentioned her daughter, John snorted with laughter.
I've always found her annoying. She acts so disrespectful towards adults. Of course, I'm leaving her behind.
What a thing to say about his own daughter. I was filled with rage and shock at the news of him selling the house and running away with his mistress. My mind was reeling. I have to stop John. Even if he says he sold the house, it can't be handed over that quickly. I have to do something. John had already hung up the phone after saying going on a trip with his mistress. I was trying to make sense of what had happened with my confused mind. But no matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't believe he would sell our house, especially during his hospital stay. Shocked, my condition worsened, and my hospital stay was extended by a few days. Feeling utterly defeated, I lay on my bed, helplessly thinking about the future. I should call Lisa first. Without the house, Lisa and I would have nowhere to go. The bold declaration of having a mistress was infuriating, but what concerned me most was Lisa. I called the home of John's parents, and his mother answered. She quickly put Lisa on the phone. "Hello, Lisa. I'm sorry. It looks like my hospital stay is going to be longer. Are you okay? Not too lonely? I heard about your dad selling the house. We don't have a place to go back to now." I rapidly asked, worried about Lisa. Then Lisa answered with a bright voice.
Mom, it's okay. I've taken care of it.
What? I was puzzled by Lisa's words about having taken care of it.
Dad told me he asked his mistress to sell the house. But actually, Grandma and Grandpa.
Lisa detailed the events that had occurred during my hospital stay. I was stunned, as unexpected developments had unfolded without my knowledge.
So, Mom, just rest easy. I'm okay.
Thank you. Lisa's responsible words encouraged me, and I finally managed to calm down a bit. However, if what Lisa was saying was true, I wondered what was happening with John and his mistress now. Curious, but reminding myself that rest was crucial, I fell asleep. 3 days later, fully recovered, I headed to my in-laws' house.
Mom, welcome back.
Lisa ran up to me with a happy face, with Grandma smiling softly behind her.
Speaking of which, John really did something outrageous. I'm sorry, Emily.
My father-in-law apologized to me with a stern face. With such wonderful parents, why did John turn out this way? No, it's my fault for going along with everything without saying anything.
Thank you. Now, there's something we need to tell you, Emily.
Yes, what is it? I sat down with Lisa to listen to my in-law's story. Though surprised again, mother-in-law's assertive encouragement that they wouldn't let John have his way gave me some relief. After hearing the story from my in-laws, Lisa and I were about to head home when I noticed a familiar man and an unfamiliar woman having a dispute in front of a real estate office. It was unmistakably John, and the woman with him had to be his mistress. John was in sweats, his hair a mess, and his mistress was in a short skirt and one high heel, barefaced.
Hey, fix this. How come the house isn't selling?
What about my $400,000?
Well, the buyer canceled last night, so there's no deal anymore.
Why the cancellation? Damn it.
John was stomping his feet, and his mistress was shrieking beside him, drawing startled looks from passersby. Lisa and I were shocked, but realized it was about us, and we approached John and his mistress. "What are you doing here?" Startled by my sudden approach, John and his mistress exclaimed in surprise.
Oh, it's you. I get it. You did this, didn't you? You convinced the buyer not to go through with it.
That's ridiculous. What are you even talking about?
As John and his mistress hurled insults, I shielded Lisa behind me. The real estate agent was bewildered, so I stepped forward and said, "I'm his wife." The agent responded with a stunned "Oh."
Are you kidding me with this cancellation? Because of you, we had to turn back right before getting on the plane, and now we can't buy a new house. And there's the debt I incurred for her.
John pointed at his mistress when he mentioned her. So, that's it. Now I understand John's scheme. He tried to sell the house to pay the debt of the money he had spent on his mistress and to buy a new house to live in with her. How selfish of him to know that this is a precious house that I inherited from my late father. He was ignoring me and Lisa and trying to steal my most important asset. I was trembling with anger. Don't you think you're the one being disrespectful here?
Showing up out of nowhere and talking back to me. You can't even eat properly without me.
I continued my words, disgusted by John, who was abusing me. First off, do you really think you can sell my cherished home without consulting me? I'm the owner of that house. Did you forge some documents or what? And you've been bad-mouthing the buyer, but you should know the buyers were your parents.
What?
What's going on?
Indeed, during my hospital stay, I learned from Lisa over the phone that my in-laws pretended to buy the house to teach John a lesson. They were furious after hearing about John's misdeeds from Lisa, saying, "It's unbelievable what he has done to Emily and our dear granddaughter." My in-laws believed Lisa's words over their sins due to her cheerful and honest nature.
I'll explain. Grandpa and Grandma knew about Dad and his mistress and were very angry. I knew Dad was trying to sell the house and consulted with them. The house is an important one that my mom inherited, and they said it shouldn't be sold so easily. So, they tried to buy it themselves before anyone else could.
Lisa confidently stepped forward to narrate the events.
What the hell are they doing to their own son? Damn old man and woman. And you too, ya child meddling in adult affairs shows what poor parenting you've had.
John, losing his composure, scoffed. Lisa remained composed against John's outburst. I pulled out a document from my bag, thrusting it in front of his nose. Sorry, but we're getting a divorce? Seeing the divorce papers, John snorted again.
Divorce? You said it. You think you can live without me?
He must have thought that as a stay-at-home mom, I'd be lost without him. Perhaps that was true before. But now, I have a trump card. I spoke up to shatter John's shallow thinking. No need to worry. Your parents have decided to give me a pre-death gift.
Pre-death gift?
What's that? John and his mistress were bewildered. Indeed, this morning, my in-laws told me about a pre-death gift. Before it was too late, as their health was failing. They wanted to give me a part of their assets. I initially refused, thinking the gift should go to John. However, they insisted we care more about Emily, who gave birth to and raised our wonderful granddaughter, than our son who can't even thank you for the organ donation. I agreed to the pre-death gift from them. It's your parents' wish. They wanted to give it to me, not you. I told John, whose face turned pale. That's probably true. He was shocked to lose the assets that should have been his to his soon-to-be ex-wife.
That's dirty. That's not right. It's normal for children to inherit their parents' assets. I'll talk to them. If they don't listen, I'll sue.
John glared at me with fiery eyes, shouting. I sighed at his shallow thinking. Maybe it's time to end this. Stepping forward, I met John's gaze and declared, What you're saying is absurd. You ridiculed me and even got a mistress, didn't you? It's your fault for spending the money, right? Your parents made the right decision. And do you even have the money for a lawsuit? How will your past betrayals look in court? John let out a shriek, visibly shaken by my assertive presence.
Sorry, I won't sue. Please forgive me.
He begged desperately, but it was too late. I glared at John one last time and stated firmly, You will pay the alimony and child support for insulting Lisa and me. If you can't pay, I'll pursue it to the ends of the earth. Be prepared. John and his mistress screamed and ran away. The real estate agent, having witnessed everything, thanked me with a wobbly stance. Thank you so much. No, I'm really sorry for causing such trouble. Feeling awkward, I took Lisa's hand and we went back home.
Mom, you were awesome.
And so were you, Lisa. Thank you for standing up for me. Despite the situation, Lisa's face was smiling. I vowed in my heart to protect her for life. A few days later, I was able to successfully divorce John. The long-endured marriage ended with just a piece of paper, making me wonder why I had put up with it for so long. John had really squandered his money on his mistress and ended up borrowing to pay the alimony. The mistress left him, saying, I can't stay with such a poor man. Adding to his misfortune, John's company had to reduce staff due to decreased sales from material shortages. Working in the factory, John was one of the first to be laid off. It's sad, but it's hard to believe there was no reason for his dismissal. Probably the company let go of those who were performing poorly or had bad behavior first. John, who used to boss around at home, must have had the same attitude at work. Now jobless, loverless, and wifeless, John is scraping by with odd jobs. His days must be bleak, devoting himself to part-time work that allows him to rest whenever he likes, lacking the energy to seek proper employment. But I felt no sympathy for him. I had done all I could by donating part of my kidney to him. It seemed like karma for how he belittled me. He should just work hard to pay off his debts. As for me, I started making a living with the assets inherited from my in-laws and began working as an illustrator. It all started when Lisa complimented me on how good I was at drawing. While the orders are still few, my clients say my work is meticulous and skilled. I plan to increase my clientele and raise Lisa proudly,